Hello, everybody. Welcome to How's It Going? My name is Leo Young, and today we're going to be teaching you how to build the perfect home office. So, as you all know, just a disclaimer for the show, the opinions and things we talk about are just for informational purposes. But with that being said, I do hope that y'all learn something new at home while just hanging out. And for today's topic, I have a very special guest. She's an old friend of mine, and now she is an interior designer based in Greater Boston, Massachusetts. So please join me in welcoming Virginia Moyano.
Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you so much for having me on, Leo.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on. Um, so yeah, would you mind, Virginia, just covering the things that I didn't talk about? Like, just tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So, as Leo said, my name is Virginia Moyano. I own and founded VM Interiors. So, I'm an interior decorator in Boston, but I also do offer virtual services. So, pretty much anywhere. Mostly do residential, but I've also done things like Airbnbs. So, that's pretty much
Mm,
what I'm up to these days.
yeah, I feel like Airbnbs are pretty hot nowadays, right? Everyone,
Yeah,
yeah, renting out a spare room or something.
definitely. More so before, March and the pandemic, I guess people
Yeah,
were a
that
little hesitant to go to an Airbnb. But yeah, it's really big, especially around this area. It's very competitive. There are so many that you want it to stand out. And the best way to have it stand out, aside from location and how much you're charging, is making it seem homey and a nice place to stay at.
definitely. So I know. So for me, like I personally have been traveling all over the place, and I go to a lot of Airbnbs. And in my opinion, I don't think it takes a lot of money or effort to make a place look nice. But that, I mean, it leaves a lasting impression on the visitors that come by. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Even just small things like keeping it very clean or having places that are functional, because some of the Airbnbs I've worked on, people stay for weeks at a time because they're
right.
visiting from out of state or something. So you want them to be comfortable for a long time and have the things that they would at their own house.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and also, just before I forget too, so as you all know, back at home, every episode benefits a charity. So if you learn something new today, or if you're feeling charitable, I'll leave a link below. Have you donate to raise funds for a certain charity. Virginia, do you mind introducing the charity of the week for us?
Sure. So the charity is the Room to Dream Foundation. They're actually local. I think they're based out of Newton, Massachusetts. And their mission is to raise money to create kind of dream bedrooms for chronically ill children. So, if you may not know, chronically ill children often spend most of their time either at home or in the hospital. So, to help them feel more comfortable, they pair up with designers, and their charity gives them really great rooms, both in home or in the hospital.
Wow, that's really really cool actually.
Yeah.
Um, just I mean, most of the charities that I hear about, it's just hey, helping out people in need. But I mean, this takes like a unique twist to it. It's like, hey, let's build your dream bedroom.
Yeah. And they have on their website, they have pictures of the kids like walking in and seeing them, which is really great.
Okay. Now, ha, how does that work? Like for the designers, like, have you ever worked on one of their projects?
No, but I wish. I'm actually considering reaching out because I'd love to do
Uh-huh.
it.
Yeah.
Something like that is, I'm assuming, very fulfilling and fun. Also, working with kids, I've done a couple of kids' bedrooms, and those are always fun because they're very opinionated in ways that
Yeah.
you wouldn't think, and they'll tell you exactly what they want or what they don't like.
Yeah. I think that's great. I mean, just kids in general, like they haven't learned to, you know, to filter themselves. So they're like, yeah, I don't like that wallpaper color. Oh, I want this.
Exactly.
So that's great. But yeah, with that being said, I'll include the link below. So please consider donating. Um, And yeah, let's move on to just the world of interior design. Would you mind telling us, how's it going in your world? How has the recent pandemic affected it?
Yeah, it definitely has. Luckily, things are starting to pick up again now that we're in phase three, I believe, here in Mass. So people are more comfortable. But in the beginning, the thought of a stranger coming to your house was like the last thing that you wanted. So
Right.
nobody was comfortable with that. Luckily, I do the virtual services, so that
Mm,
helps a lot because I can help you from comfort of your own house. I don't have to go there. That works out. We have a call, I draw up plans, and then you can pretty much do it yourself. And during the pandemic, that meant all the products included were things you could buy online, so you didn't have
right.
to go shopping anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it definitely has affected it, but also the virtual services help because most people were working from home. And from what I've seen, most people are not prepared to do that in terms of having an office or a comfortable space to work from all day. So trying to kind of navigate that was a good source for business.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that this topic is a highly requested topic because, I mean, for me, I'd prefer not to show you my workspace because it's so messy right now. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can use sort of your expertise and how to, lay things out. I'm aware of the different schools of thought behind like interior design, like Marie Kondo and stuff, like very minimalist. I think it's really cool. So I'd love to jump more into that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so just in terms of staging and interior design, can you like tell us like how did you stumble upon it, or how did you get your start?
So it's a bit of a long story. I've
Yeah.
always been artistic since I was a kid,
Mhm.
and I went to a vocational high school, majored in art all those years.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I decided to go more the traditional route, go to college, and I studied, which isn't too traditional, but forensic psychology.
Yeah.
So for years, I was on track to do something like be in the FBI, something like that. But in the back of my mind, I was always thinking about interior decorating, but I just kept like pushing it away.
Right.
Um, and then I actually started a doctoral program in psychology and finally realized I'm not passionate about this. I've always been scared to pursue interior decorating, but it's something that's always called to me. So
Mm.
I just kind of bit the bullet and went for it. And luckily, some of my first clients were my bosses at my part-time job. I did an office for them and then their kids' bedrooms and just started building up my portfolio that way.
Right. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, props to you for taking that leap. I
Thank
know
you.
it's always scary.
Yeah.
Um, to start something like this. I mean, like for the previous generation, if you go like, 20, 30 years ago, like people wouldn't really think about things like this.
Mhm.
But now I feel like the opportunity is just so wide.
Mhm.
There's just so many ways to get noticed by people. It's not like, hey, you have to please the gatekeeper, so to speak. In artistic roles, like I don't know, like acting, you have to please the director. Whereas now, people just shoot on YouTube, or TikTok as you did, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Social media has completely changed the game because it gives you an opportunity to be seen by way more people more easily. So
mm,
like some of the interior designers that I look up to that have been in the business for like 30 years, their whole business started from word of mouth. So they had it way harder. Whereas now with Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you can reach that a little bit faster.
right, definitely. And yeah, I mean, I took a look at your TikTok. It's amazing.
Thank
Um,
you.
it's just these fun little snippets. I'm sure you can describe it better than I can, but just little tips, right?
Yeah. With TikTok, for those that don't know, the longest you can make a video is only a minute. So I actually try to incorporate in most of my projects some sort of DIY element. So that could mean reupholstering chairs or painting an old dresser, family heirloom that you don't really like anymore, but you're afraid of getting rid of. So you can make it something more modern. So I put like tutorials or I'll show videos of me designing a room on TikTok, and it's all very quick. Like I said, at max 1 minute. But I think it's good because our attention spans are so small these days that it's something that's easy to digest and you can learn very quickly.
Yeah. And you mentioned a very interesting point about like repurposing old furniture, like family heirlooms. That brought this thought up. So, you know, how like basically artists, they create the culture, they create the design culture and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind that, it's not so much like, hey, let me get the most expensive things in here, let me do this, let me do that. But I mean, most of the culture comes from like broke art students, you know, in like a little apartment in Boston or like Brooklyn or something. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I spice this up? Maybe I'll paint the brick fireplace into a
Mm-hmm.
different color, and then that just changes the whole vibe of the room, right?
Yeah, that's you have to be resourceful. So even through like college, I would always move in and I'd already been planning all summer what my dorm room was going to look like and I'd get it done in like a day or two. But throughout the summer, I didn't have a ton of money to spend on extra furniture. So if somebody put out something on recycling or trash day that looked promising, but anybody else would probably look like trash, including my boyfriend, who would always be cringing when I brought stuff home, even now. But with some paint, sanding it, new handles, new fabric, you can totally change the look of it. And then people come over and like, oh my God, where did you get that? And it's unique, which is even more fun.
Yeah. Now, just on that too, what's like maybe something that you've done that you've like repurposed that you're most proud of, or like is something easy to do?
Um, Probably one of my most recent was a dresser. So we moved to our apartment now a year ago, and I wanted a buffet for our dining room this whole time.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, both my boyfriend and I have cars, so we can't fit a full buffet in there. We actually tried once from Facebook Marketplace, and it just wouldn't fit in the car. So I kind of gave up on the idea. And then walked outside one day, and our neighbors were throwing out a 6 drawer dresser, and it was solid wood, but it was missing the top two drawers, which were more narrow.
Yeah.
I was at home and I saw it through the window and I was like, we have to go grab it. And my boyfriend's like, no, that's trash. Just leave it there. We don't need it. I was like, no, it'd be the perfect buffet. And
Yeah.
the way that I convinced him was that I thought of making that top shelf a wine rack. So we brought it upstairs. I painted the whole thing, changed the handles, and then where the 2 drawers were missing, I added wood slats to create little like cubbies. So
Mm,
now it works as a wine rack as well, and it looks awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah. Do you have pictures of it by any chance?
Yeah, I actually have a video on TikTok. I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
maybe one of my most popular ones. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll make sure to link that in the video. Um, so yeah, let's move on to the main part of the video. Just can you walk us through like the whole idea of like home office? You know, we sort of spoke about it just now, but I feel like it's very important because having a good space for you to work in makes you more productive. It keeps you more positive, and like it makes your body feel better too, right?
definitely. Yeah,
Um, so do you want to walk us through like how to set one up and, you know, things you should keep in mind?
sure. So let me see if I can share my screen.
Sure.
Show you guys. Okay, so one of the problems that I've come across a lot with people having to work from home is I don't have any space. I live in a 1 bedroom apartment, which is very common in Boston, or I have roommates. I can't dedicate an entire room to an office, which is completely valid. And so these are some tips to kind of work around that. One of my favorites is having these ladder bookshelf desks. So as you can see, something that leans up against the wall, probably not best for somebody that has tons of physical books or papers that they need to work on. But if all you need, which most people do these days, is a computer or a laptop, this is great because when you're not working there, it just looks like a bookshelf in your
Mhm.
apartment. So you can kind of disguise it. You don't even really need to have a specific chair for it. If you have nice dining chairs, you can just pull those over when you're working and nobody would really know that it's even your office when you're not using it. Another example are wall-mounted desks. So this is a tip that I always use. When we usually think of where to decorate and where we can put things, we think of floor space. We also have to remember that you also have vertical space, whether that's hanging shelves or something like this, which is a wall-mounted desk. When it's folded up, it literally looks like a box. You could even put a picture over it, so it looks like an art piece, or the other one right here is a chalkboard. So if you have kids, that's a fun way to kind of put like, this is what we have to get done today, or grocery list, or draw something fun on it. And then when you have to work, you just open it up, drag a chair over, and you have an entire desk that nobody would ever see.
Nice.
Another one of my favorites is a cloffice. So pretty much a closet office. So if you have an extra closet that you don't really need for storage, kind of gut it. You can, if you live in an apartment, you don't need to mount shelves. I know some landlords are not okay with making holes in the wall, but even just sliding in a small desk that fits the width of it and a chair, put your monitors in there, any printer probably if you wanted to put up on one of the shelves. And when no one's there, you can either close a door, so you literally have no idea that a closet is there, or you can make it a statement piece by making one of the walls wallpapered or painting it a different color than the rest of your room, or just have it match the room, so whichever aesthetic you prefer.
Nice.
This one's kind of a simple one if you live in a small apartment, or if you want to put your workspace in your bedroom, you can just get a corner desk. They don't take up much space at all. And like these are nice, they have the shelves underneath, so for a little bit of extra storage, and the drawer. These are a good option. And then another one is chairs don't have to be boring. So we're all used to, and I even have one, I'm guilty of it, having the standard black office swivel chair, but you can get so many nice ones like these farmhouse inspired ones. They have leather ones. This one's really interesting with the wood. I'd never seen something like that before. So you can add a statement with the chair, and again, you can put it in another part of the room if you want when you're not at your desk working.
Nice.
This is kind of, sorry about that, more for organization. So I have one of these in our office that's huge. It's probably like, I don't know, 2 feet long. And it's a dry erase calendar. So some of them come in like the gold, plain black. We spray painted ours to match our office in my apartment. But they're great for staying organized every day, which can be very difficult working from home, especially when you're not used to it. It's kind of, how do I stay on top of things? So getting something like this is awesome because you can just erase it every day afterwards. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't get messy like a piece of paper that you might lose or something like that. And it serves as a nice decorative piece. And then the last thing is storage. Filing cabinets don't have to be those really ugly, humongous, like army green colored filing cabinets that we all grew up seeing in office spaces. Places like IKEA, I think 2 or 3 of these are from IKEA, have really affordable small ones. I actually recently posted another video on TikTok where I did a hack of an IKEA shoe cabinet that's actually really narrow because our office space didn't allow for something this bulky. Added some wire to the drawers, and now we have our own DIY filing cabinet. So again, get resourceful and creative, and you'll always be able to find space for something. I think that's the most common issue that I hear is I don't have the room, but adopting even some of these tips will definitely help.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, those are really fun stuff. I mean, I like the chairs in particular. I mean, I didn't really think about that, actually. The only time I would really see, like, quote unquote, fun chairs are when I go into a house that's staged.
Yeah.
For me, that's just never crossed my mind. It's just, okay, I'll get an office chair.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of them, I'm gonna kind of like disclaimer, they're comfortable too, because my boyfriend always, if there's no comfort, and males in general, I find if it's not functional or comfortable,
Right.
then it's not gonna be in the room. And you need that, especially when you're sitting there, what, 8, 9 hours a day. Nobody wants to sit on something that's beautiful, but really uncomfortable to sit in. So a lot
Yeah.
of them are really comfortable, especially like the tufted ones.
Definitely. So do you have any like recommendations off the top of your head?
For where to find them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can find them. I like Overstock has really affordable ones. Even
Mhm.
places like Amazon now that
Yeah.
carries anything you could ever possibly
Of
need.
course. Of course.
Um, let's see. I think Joss and Main has more, maybe West Elm,
Okay.
but you can find them in all types of price
Yeah.
ranges.
Gotcha. Okay. And thank you for sharing that, Virginia. Just that slide, it was really cool.
You're welcome.
Um, so just thinking too, like when you're, let's say you just moved into a new apartment and nothing's set up yet, like what should be your thinking? Like, oh, maybe I should put a desk in where there's a window for the natural lighting,
Mhm.
you know?
Um, I think the first step that I always see is functionality. So, what functions is the room going to serve? So, for us, luckily, we have a room dedicated to an office. But if you don't, if it's going to be in a living room or something like that, you want to also think, I have a huge TV. I can't put the TV in front of the window and trying to figure out the floor layout that way. I think for a desk, it's nice to be against the window. Mine is against the window just because it keeps you a little more motivated throughout the day than just being against a blank wall.
Mhm.
Um, I think if it was against the wall, I'd have either the dry erase calendar up on there and then some sort of fun art, just because staring at a screen all day gets tiring, and
Yeah.
just having a break and being able to either look outside or look at a fun piece that you really love is really great. And then also, aside from functionality, is storage. So, how many bookshelves do I need? Do I need a filing cabinet? And all of those things together, figure out the dimensions, because the worst thing is ordering a bunch of furniture. It gets there and then it's either way too
Yeah.
big or way too small, like things don't fit. So,
Yep.
those would probably be my three go tos.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. And of course, like you post tips all the time on your TikTok and your social media, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll make sure to link those below for those of you back at home who want to check out these tips too. Definitely check it out. So yeah, just in terms of okay, so like that's sort of the thinking behind it, getting yourself more productive. Now, just general tips. What kind of tips do you have just going around designing a home office?
Um, so, I think one of the biggest is don't overwhelm yourself too quickly. I think for some people, walking into an empty room is more daunting than walking into a room that's half furnished, because there's so many possibilities you don't even know where to start. I'd
Right.
say start with the big furniture pieces, because they're going to take up the most amount of room and they're going to kind of tell you the theme of the room, whether it's mid-century modern or contemporary, bohemian, whatever it may be. Pick
Mhm.
out the big furniture, and it's going to be the most expensive, probably, most likely, so that you know budget wise what you can afford afterwards. And like we were saying earlier, you can always get resourceful, either go thrifting and then revamp things, or you might get lucky and find something really awesome at the thrift store already as is.
Right.
Um, so getting the accessories, I think, comes after the fact. I know some people will design an entire room based on an art piece, which is also okay. Like if there's something that you know for sure you want in the room and it inspires you, then you can go off of that, whether it's like with the paint colors, or what kind of furniture you're going to get. But definitely take your time. I usually don't like settling into a room until everything is like super done. So I'll plan for months ahead of time. But if you're just moving in, you don't need to have everything done the next day. Take
Mhm.
your time. And it's always best to buy pieces that you know you really love and that you're going to love for a while, as opposed to just rushing because you want to have the room done.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of just the themes of rooms, so I know there's certain kinds of themes that are popular now, you know, themes like farmhouse and stuff. People love that.
Mhm.
Like what are some of the main themes that you see a lot nowadays?
Um, a lot of farmhouse, like you said, especially with new real estate, I've noticed there's a lot of like shiplap and like the wood ceilings and things like that. That's very popular. The white kitchen with the shaker cabinets and such. So
Hmm.
that's really big. A lot of contemporary or and also minimalist. A lot of people, I don't know if it was Marie Kondo, I don't watch her, but a lot of people are ready to get rid of junk and like hide things that they don't use every day, at least like put them in some sort of cabinet so that it's not out all the time. I think people are a lot more open to minimalism these days.
Hmm. Definitely. And just going a step further than that too, for all the guys out there who are just like, okay, this is my room. I just have like a desk that I had from college. Like, here's a random chair I found in my parents' house, and you know, like just bunch of random furniture here and there.
Mhm.
Do you have any tips to like how to tie the room together?
Yeah. Um, One of my favorites is rugs. I think people overlook rugs a lot, but if you get a rug with like multiple different colors, that can easily tie in a room, whether you have a blue desk, a brown chair, green, I don't know, comforter, you can tie it all in with one rug probably. If it's a furniture piece that completely sticks out, it's not going to work no matter what you do. You can always paint it. Um, Paint it or use some sort of contact paper to cover it as well.
Mhm.
Um, Curtains are also important, I think. A lot of guys, I would say, don't even really bother with curtains. But accessories like that, like the textiles, so comforters, rugs, curtains, pillows are a big one that I see guys pass on a lot. It's like, what do you need a throw pillow for if you can't lay on it?
Yeah,
But more, those are more affordable ways of tying in a bunch of different colors. And it's okay to have different colored furniture. I think
yeah.
sometimes it's scary like to mix different mediums, but I think if it's done well, it can look really good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's surprising to see like how some rooms can really come together with
Mhm.
just a piece or two, you know, like even little accessories like pillows, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I think that that's part of the reason why, like, I think having like an interior designer help you out would be super helpful just in this whole process. Like, if you're just lazy and you're like, okay, I'm gonna lay it out the way I do, and then hey, maybe someone like you can come help me and be like, okay, well, why don't you change the rug color? Why don't you add that?
Yeah,
And
or even like the layout, like you said, can completely transform a room. I know some people that change their layout every couple of months because they just get bored of it,
yeah,
but you never know if another layout might be way more functional and more aesthetically pleasing as well.
definitely. And if there's one thing I learned is that don't be afraid to take a change. You know, if it's like, let's try out this different layout, and
Mhm.
it's much better. You just
Yeah,
have to.
and one of the tips I have is if I'm not sure where I want to hang something and I don't want to commit to like putting a nail on the wall, I'll record myself on my phone, like holding it up in that spot, and then just look it over that way and see if I like how it looks there before committing to anything.
That's smart. Never thought about that. Then
That's
again,
that's the
I
worst.
yeah,
Screwing things into the wall and then like having to
yeah,
patch it up when you just painted is horrible.
yeah. Imagine putting a screw in the wrong place, and you're like,
Use a level. Definitely one of my need to have tools is a
Hmm,
level.
yeah, definitely. I mean, those are like I don't know, a few dollars at a Home Depot or something.
Yep.
Really. Um, Okay, and speaking of that too, like what are some like common mistakes that you see people make or like some no-nos? Like, you know, hanging something out without a level?
Yeah, that one's definitely one of them. Another is when all the furniture hugs the wall. So you're like afraid of putting furniture within the middle of the room. It just makes it feel, I don't know if like museum like or just too hollow in the middle. So don't
Yeah.
be afraid to put furniture in the center. One of the offices that I'm working on now, I'm actually putting the desk in the middle of the room.
Okay.
And for some, that might be like, oh, but walking space and such, but it just makes it feel so much more grand and luxurious when you have a nice sturdy desk in the center of the room, and it kind of ties everything together. So one of the tips is to not have all the furniture hug the room.
Okay.
Another one, this may be more personal preference, but having things kind of put away. So less open shelving for things that aren't aesthetically pleasing. So think even like a closet, for example, not having too much clothes like folded up on a shelf. You can get some sort of dresser for that, or baskets are great way for storage and really affordable,
Yeah.
just so that it doesn't seem so cluttered. You can't believe like what a difference just decluttering is. You
Oh,
know, get rid of the things that you that you
yeah.
don't need. That's always the first step in any design, is figuring out, do you need everything that's in this room? Because we can work around that, but maybe you don't, and that could completely change the entire process.
Definitely. And yeah, speaking of that too, like, so a big thing with Marie Kondo, so I reference her because I read her book. So she's very like, throw away what you don't need and like put away everything else.
Mhm.
And yeah, for me, like I just took, like after reading the book, I took like a weekend just to, throw away what I don't need. But
Mhm.
it's, I mean, I didn't take it as crazy as she suggested.
Yeah.
Uh, just like general decluttering
Mhm.
and like reorganizing, like just putting things away and folding things nicely. I feel like that helped me a lot, that like I didn't even know would affect me that way, because it just sort of cleared up that headspace. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like there's something in psychology that's like, if your brain has to process so many things at once, like it just like shuts everything out versus like,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, and where you spend, I say this all the time, but like where you spend the most time should be motivating and refreshing and relaxing. Like the worst thing is coming home from a busy day of work and then being stressed out by having so much clutter in your house, or like disorganization, that it's hard to just relax and think. One of my kind of rules is, if you haven't reached for it in the past year, you probably don't need it, right?
Mhm.
Unless it's something of sentimental value, and that, can be argued what is sentimental or not.
Right.
Um, but I think that's a good rule for getting rid of things. And also, getting rid of things means you can sell it and add that to your budget for your new design. So now you have a little more room to play with and get new things.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. Just like selling things that you don't need and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, also just like on throwing away things or like getting rid of things. Like I was happy that I didn't take it as extreme as, some people say like Marie Kondo, because I mean, like no one expected this whole quarantine thing to happen.
Yeah,
But when it did, I'm like, okay, thank God I didn't throw out that Monopoly
absolutely
set or like
everything.
this, that, like, or else I'd be really, really bored at home.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. This whole thing is going to really change our mindset on a lot of things
Mm.
moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, just decluttering, getting rid of things in general. Like, do you have any other useful tips for like people quarantining at home?
Yeah, I've noticed this in myself a lot, is that when you spend so much time at home, you're ready to kind of throw everything that looks a certain way out and start completely fresh, which is also hard to do when most of the stores were closed or like you couldn't reach it. And also, in terms of job security, you won't want to be spending a ton of money on things when you don't know what could happen. Um, so I think the best thing is repurpose what you have, or just move things around. So many times I'll take some decorative piece from my living room and bring it over to the dining room, and it's like it's brand new all of a sudden because it's in a different setting. So just kind of go shopping within the things that you already have.
Mm.
Um, Another one is to stay, like, create a space that makes you feel motivated. I think it's so hard to be motivated when every day kind of blurs into the next, and you
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen the next day. You don't have a job to go to every morning, you don't have the gym, whatever it is. So create a space that makes you feel good and motivated, because you'll need that, especially if you have to work from home, because you don't have any choice. You have to work, so you might as well be like upbeat and feeling better about it.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, just in terms of like positive and motivating, like that's so important too. Um, for me, I think if you have the luxury to like have like a dedicated space be your working space, and not just like, oh, I'm gonna bring the laptop to the couch and like do this
Yeah,
and it's all over.
you just spiral after that.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah. Oh, so one thing I think would be helpful too. So like just pet owners, people
Mhm.
that have like, dogs, cats and stuff, like especially if they shed a lot. Do you have any like tips on that?
Yeah, actually, we got a cat last year, and one of the first things we bought was the cat tower, just to teach him to not ruin the couches, and that's where he spends most of his time. We still spend a ton of time vacuuming, don't get me wrong, that there's like no way around that.
Mm.
But the cat towers, if you can fit one in your house, are great. They also have those like hammocks that stick to the windows.
Yeah,
They're with the little suction cups, just
yeah,
places where they can hang out that are for them and not really on your furniture. The
yeah,
earlier that you can teach them that, the better, because they're more likely to listen, especially cats. Dogs might be better, but cats are very like, I'm going to do whatever I want.
right. Fair enough.
And kind of a random tool, I guess, that we use is this glove that has little, I don't know, like little spikes. They're not spikes, they don't hurt.
Yep.
But
Yep,
for
that's what I'm
like
talking about.
yeah, instead of a brush, because at least our cat wouldn't stay still when we use the brush. But when you use that glove, you'd be amazed at how much fur comes off of that. So
Mhm.
that definitely helps, especially when you have rugs. Like I said, you don't want that completely filled with fur everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And just also like in general too, like when you have a dog or a cat, like are there certain like things you should be aware of, like with furniture? Like, hey, maybe don't hang like something that like a cat might just ruin or something.
Yeah, so for one of my recent clients, I put a tea set on their coffee table that was very low. And luckily they don't have pets. But if that client had a big dog,
Yeah.
that probably would not work because the dog could easily tip it over and break it. So always keep in mind like how much does my pet move? What can they reach? Same with babies. You know, you don't want to put anything that's too sharp or dangerous. When you're doing a kid's room, try to minimize the amount of like sharp corners of furniture just because if they're small you don't want them to get hurt. So that's why all design is completely customizable and should always more than just looking nice be functional to your lifestyle.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah, that's a great tip too. Just being mindful of who uses that space
Mhm.
and maybe thinking from their perspective, like a baby.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, with that being said, we're sort of running out of time too. So I just want to wrap this up a little bit. What is one thing that you can't live without?
Oof. Aside from my cat,
Yeah.
we're like attached at the hip. He's probably right outside the door waiting to get into the office right now. Um, Sweets. That's been a tough
Yeah.
one, especially with COVID. It's like every time we go to the supermarket, I need a tub of ice cream, or my weakness is Hostess cupcakes, which is very random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I must agree with you on that. It's just I didn't even catch myself like this whole like uptake in like eating sweets and stuff, which is so gradual for me during the quarantine. And it's like, wait a minute, how many times did I bake this week?
So much banana bread. So
Yeah,
much banana bread.
yeah. Well, thankfully too, we'll have Jeff coming on. Jeff's a personal trainer. For those of you that don't know, he's going to be talking about how to get rid of the COVID-19. We
Ooh,
have freshman 15, now we have COVID-19.
yeah,
If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Um, but that's great. So just to summarize too, like we walked through a lot of tips, a lot of useful tips for the people back home to just sort of build their home office or like just reorganize their house. And yeah, I think one of the most important things is that you should think about what that space is being used for,
Mhm.
especially if it's going to be an office. It's got to
Yep.
be positive and motivating. because you want to put your best work forward, and having a good environment helps out a lot.
Yep.
Is there anything else I missed?
No, I think you covered it. And also, I have on my website a couple of blog posts, one specifically dedicated to how to build a home office. So if you forget anything, you can always check that out.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll put a link to all of that below, just so those of you back home can take a further look too. And of course, if you have any questions about interior design, Virginia is amazing. She's super creative with what she does. And yeah, I mean, if you learned something new today, please do consider making these kids' dreams come true with our charity of the week, building the dream rooms. And Virginia, you'll have to keep us updated if you ever do work for them or like do a room for them.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So I think with that being said, I think we've run out of time. Virginia, thank you so much for coming on today. You've been
so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And to those of you back home too, thank you for joining in. And I will see you all next week. I hope you all stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
Guys.